You lied today. Maybe it was small. I'm fine. 5 minutes away. Yeah, I read it. Maybe you didn't even notice, but here's the question nobody really asks. When did this start? Not for you personally, for us as a species. At some point in the ancient past, a human being looked at another human being, someone they knew, someone they lived with, someone they hunted with and ate with and slept near, and said something they knew was not true. On purpose, with a goal in mind. That was a turning point in human history, not just because it was morally complicated, but because of what it required, what it proved about the brain that produced it. Today we're going back to the first deceptions, to the lies told around fires that no longer exist in languages no one speaks anymore, by people who had no word for lie, but who understood on some level exactly what they were doing. The place is the Kenyan Rift Valley. The time is approximately 1 million years ago. A group of early humans, not yet Homo sapiens, but close enough that you'd recognize the intelligence behind the eyes, is planning something. Ahead of them, a herd of giant gelada baboons is moving through a narrow valley. The landscape here funnels the animals along predictable paths. The humans know this. They've watched this valley for seasons. They know where the herd will go. 3 of them move quietly ahead, taking up positions in the rocks above the path. They don't make noise. They don't show themselves. They wait. 2 others move to the opposite side of the valley, making just enough sound to push the herd forward. Not enough to scatter them, enough to guide them toward the waiting hunters. The herd passes through the narrow point. The hunters above move. It works. Now, what just happened exactly? The humans didn't just hunt. They created a false reality for the baboons. The baboons believed the threat was behind them. They didn't know there was a threat in front. The humans made them believe something that was not true, and used that false belief to kill them. Researchers from Bournemouth University, who studied the Olorgesailie site in the Kenyan Rift, confirmed that around 1 million years ago, early humans were already skillfully using the landscape to ambush prey. The high ground gave them lookout points. The narrow valleys trapped the animals. The coordination required was not accidental. This was the first layer of human deception. Not a lie told in words. A lie told through positioning, silence, and misdirection. And it required something remarkable, the ability to model what the prey believed and to act in a way that kept that belief wrong. That's not instinct. That's strategy. And strategy is the beginning of everything. Let's pause on what this actually means. To set an ambush, you don't just need to know where the animal is going. You need to understand, at some level, what the animal thinks is happening. The animal thinks it's safe here. The animal doesn't know we're above it. If we show ourselves too early, the animal's belief will change and it will run. Scientists call this theory of mind, the ability to understand that other beings have their own beliefs separate from yours, and to act based on what those beliefs are, not just what reality is. The earliest hunters who developed this ability had a dramatic survival advantage. They could coordinate, they could deceive, they could kill animals far larger and faster than themselves. Not through strength, but through manipulation of what the animal believed was happening. Every ambush ever set, from a Kenyan valley 1 million years ago to a military operation today, is built on the same principle. Make the target believe something false and use that false belief against them. Deception, at its oldest, was not a social problem. It was a survival tool. But here's where it gets more complicated and more human. Because at some point, the same skill that helped ancient humans deceive prey, modeling what another mind believes, turned inward, toward the group itself. Imagine a camp somewhere in Africa 150,000 years ago. A group of maybe 30 people, extended family, allies, rivals, all tangled together in the way only humans manage. There's a hunt planned for tomorrow. It will be dangerous. The kind of hunt where someone might not come back. One man wakes before dawn with a familiar heaviness in his chest. Not illness, something closer to fear. He knows the terrain tomorrow will be treacherous. Last season, the group lost 2 hunters to exactly this kind of chase. When others begin to stir, he doesn't rise. He lets his eyes stay half closed. When someone nudges him, he makes a low, rough sound. His hand moves to his stomach. He doesn't go on the hunt. He was not sick. But here's what he had to understand to pull this off. He had to know what sickness looks like to someone watching. He had to model the observer's perspective. He had to act not how he felt, but how someone who feels a certain way would appear to others. That's a performance. A deliberate, calculated performance. And it required a level of social intelligence that most animals never develop. Now imagine someone else in the same camp. A young man. Strong, fast, one of the better hunters. But lower in the group's hierarchy than he wants to be. There's a woman he's been meeting in the evenings, away from the main fire. By the group's unspoken rules, she belongs to the domain of the dominant male. Not through any formal agreement, but through the logic of status that has governed primate groups for millions of years. They move quietly. They choose their moments carefully. When the dominant male is nearby, they don't look at each other. The young man has learned something sophisticated, that other people can only know what they can observe, that he can control what they observe, that the gap between what is happening and what is seen can be managed, deliberately, carefully, over time. This is not just instinct. Chimpanzees do something similar. There is a famous documented case of a young male chimp named Dandy who was caught courting a female behind the dominant male's back and who immediately covered himself with his own hand the moment the dominant turned around. But what ancient humans were doing went further. They weren't just reacting to being seen, they were planning, constructing a sustained false reality for everyone around them across days and weeks. Then there's the fire that night. The hunters return. One man sits closest to the flames. He was there today. He threw a spear. He was present when the animal fell. But the way he tells it, his spear was the one that mattered. His throw was the one that turned the hunt. The others exchange glances. They were there too. They know the fuller story. But they say nothing. Because the storyteller is useful. His confidence keeps the group moving forward. His version of events, slightly adjusted, makes tomorrow's hunt feel more survivable. In a group where morale matters as much as truth, a slightly inflated account costs very little. This is the beginning of reputation management, of personal narrative, of the distinctly human ability to be the author of how others see you. And there is one more person at this fire worth watching. A woman sits near the edge of the group. Her child is small, barely walking. The group has been moving fast lately. Resources are thin. There have been conversations, the quiet kind between the people who make decisions, about whether everyone is pulling their weight. Her child has been feverish for 3 nights. She knows it. She has not slept. When someone asks how he is, she says, "He's fine. He's strong. He'll keep up." She does not know if this is true, but she knows that if the group believes her child is a burden, the calculus changes. She knows that a confident answer now might buy another day. Enough time for the fever to break. Enough time for him to prove he can keep up. She is lying to protect someone who cannot protect himself. Whether the fever breaks or not, the decision to choose a false word over a true one in service of someone she loves. That is one of the most recognizably human things in this entire story. All of these lies, the faked illness, the hidden relationship, the inflated story at the fire, the protective claim about a sick child, have something in common. They all require the same thing, holding 2 versions of reality in your head simultaneously. What is true? And what someone else believes is true, the more complex the social group, the more of this mental juggling you have to do. The anthropologist Robin Dunbar proposed something that became one of the most cited ideas in evolutionary science, that the size of the neocortex, the outer layer of the brain responsible for complex thinking, correlates across primate species with the typical size of their social groups. More people to track, more relationships to manage, more reputations to monitor, more lies to construct, detect, and respond to. The social group didn't just require a bigger brain to navigate honestly, it required a bigger brain to navigate deceptively, and to detect when others were deceiving you. This is what researchers now call the Machiavellian intelligence hypothesis. The cognitive arm's race-driving human brain expansion wasn't primarily human versus nature. It was human versus human. Who is allied with whom? Who said what? Who deserves credit and who is taking it? Who is pretending to be weaker than they are? Who is hiding something and what? Lying made our brains bigger. Bigger brains made our lies better. Better lies required better lie detection, which required larger social groups to practice both in, which required larger brains to manage. Round and round across hundreds of thousands of years, until you get to us, a species with a brain 3 times the size of its nearest relatives, spending a remarkable portion of its waking hours thinking about what other people think, whether what they're saying is true, and how to present itself in the best possible light. Now we come to the strangest and most important kind of lie. The place is the same camp. The season is later. 2 days ago, the hunt failed. Not a little failure. A real one. The group needed meat. They tracked for 2 days. They came back with almost nothing. The man who led the hunt is a good man. He made reasonable decisions. The animals simply weren't where the group expected. Prey that used to be predictable has become harder to find. None of this is entirely his fault. He sits by the fire that night. The group is hungry, tired. Some of the younger members are looking at him differently than they used to. An elder sits beside him. Older now, no longer fast enough to hunt, but still the one whose words carry weight. A younger man says what several people are thinking. Maybe someone else should lead the next hunt. The elder looks at him, then back at the fire. There were no animals, the elder says quietly. The signs were wrong this season. It happens to all of us. Tomorrow we go differently. This is not entirely true. The signs weren't that wrong. A better decision at one point might have changed things. But the elder has lived long enough to know what the younger man doesn't, that a group which turns on its leader after a single failure hunts worse the next day. That confidence is a resource as real as food, that the story a group tells itself about what happened shapes what it's capable of doing next. The lie was not about covering up failure. It was about preserving the capacity to try again. This is the part of the story that tends to surprise people. We think of lying as something that corrodes cooperation, and it can. Lies that serve only the liar at the expense of the group are destructive, and ancient humans had plenty of those. Groups developed ways to punish them. Social exclusion, loss of status, the withdrawal of alliance. But not all lies corrode. Some build. You did well today. When you didn't quite. We'll make it through this. When you're not certain. He meant well. When the evidence is complicated. Researchers studying the evolution of cooperation have found that groups with some capacity for pro-social deception, lying in service of group cohesion rather than individual gain, are more stable, more cooperative, more able to sustain long-term alliances. The lie that holds a group together is a different kind of lie than the one that exploits it. And our species learned, over hundreds of thousands of years, to tell both and to develop the social instincts to know which was which. Everything that makes large human societies possible, trust, reputation, leadership, morale, depends on a complex web of what is said and what is left unsaid, what is emphasized and what is softened, what is true, and what is close enough to true to keep things working. Here's what's strange when you look at all of this together. The same cognitive ability that let an ancient human hide in rocks above a valley and wait for prey, and the ability that let a mother say he's fine about a child she wasn't sure was fine, and the ability that let an elder reframe a failed hunt into something the group could survive, all of these come from the same root. The ability to hold two versions of reality in your mind at the same time. What is true? And what someone else believes is true. Every form of human imagination runs through this same capacity. To write a story, you have to model a reader who doesn't yet know what happens. To teach, you have to model a student who doesn't yet understand. To comfort someone, you have to step into their experience, not just your own. And to lie, even in the small, daily, barely noticed ways, you have to do the most human thing there is. Step outside your own perspective and into someone else's. See the world as they see it. and choose deliberately what to do with that view. We lied our way to bigger brains. We lied our way to stronger groups. We lied our way to the kind of social world complex enough to eventually produce language and art and civilization. So the next time you catch yourself saying, "I'm fine," when you're not, or 5 minutes away when you haven't left, or "that was really good" about something that wasn't quite, you are not doing something shameful. You are doing something that took 1,000,000 years to develop, something that other animals almost never manage, something that required and drove the expansion of the most complex organ in the known universe. You're not lying despite being human. You're lying because you are.